Giovanna Alfieri, the head of marketing and e-commerce at the Honey Pot. We'll also hear from Madeline Beniflah, the media director at Acento. The session, as I said, will be moderated by Tiffanie, and I will let her take it over from here.
Thank you, Chris. I thought the same thing. I was like, where are my women at? So excited to get started on this. Super excited to be here again. I'm thrilled to chat with you both, Giovanna and Madeline. Quick background in case you're just tuning in. Thank you, Brand Innovators, for having us. Background and influential, we are a social data and conversion company specializing in showcasing the effectiveness of influencer campaigns by tracking attribution. So today we have the opportunity to talk with two brands and companies that I love and have had the pleasure of talking with over the past couple of weeks. I want to kick it off by giving a quick intro for Giovanna and Madeline about your role and what your company is, and then we can dive into some questions. Giovanna, would you like to start? Uh-oh, I think unmute. 1 second. The lovely mute button. Wait, one more time. There we go.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to see your face, Tiffanie. And hi, Madeline.
Hello.
So yeah, I am the head of e-commerce and marketing at the Honey Pot. The Honey Pot is the first plant-based feminine hygiene system on the market. So we do the whole gamut of vaginal washes, wipes, tampons, pads, you name it. And so really hitting a diversity of products and use cases. And of course, we're sold in about 36,000 points of distribution, but naturally also have our own direct-to-consumer website, which I am the owner of. So I'm really excited to explore this conversation. And yeah, thanks for having me again.
No problem.
Awesome. Well, I'm Madeline Beniflah. I know that doesn't roll off the tongue. I am the media director focusing on all things digital at Acento Advertising. What was a legacy Hispanic agency has now morphed to be a total market cross target shop. Really, I mean, we're really at the intersection of what is happening with diversity and ethnic marketing. We're living in a multicultural America, and we're servicing our clients to really understand and address all of those targets.
Awesome. Yeah, and I'm excited to talk more about that. I know there's just so much to say, and this conversation is like only, a couple 30 minutes or so. So want to make it super snackable in what we have to say, but want to talk about the elephant in the room. So typically this would be a conversation we have in person in front of a live audience. Just on one end of it, thank you for inviting us into your homes. I know that, you might be at your desk right now or, waking up and kind of like always, on in any capacity. But I want to talk about some of these changes that you've had to deal with since the pandemic announcement back in March. So this could be from a marketing perspective, thinking about your clients, or specifically, I know Giovanna, you've had to make several changes as a brand. Want to talk through that to start us off. Giovanna, would you like to go?
Yeah, totally. So we were thrust into a unique, experience naturally as like a human collective, but also really as a brand. And so what we were up against were ongoing supply chain challenges. And a lot of those supply chain challenges were by proxy of the fact that many of our manufacturers were asked to produce PPE products. So everything from antiseptic wipes to hand sanitizer, which put us in an ongoing predicament because simultaneously our demand was increasing. Naturally, our customers, with menstrual care and vaginal health, those are deemed essentials in a ton of capacity. So people were purchasing at scale. Additionally, we went viral due to some really, kind of nasty racist comments in relation to a Target commercial. And so we had this beautiful organic growth from a community perspective wherein people were really coming to speak and protect us and uphold the value of the brand. and pushback really from our manufacturers. So an example being something that would normally take us, say, 30 days to produce is now at 180 to 220 day timeline. So we really don't know how to understand demand in relation to our customers. So really what the pivot has been, and it has always been sort of the heartbeat of the Honey Pot, is trying to find that, like, those peripheral activations. Naturally, we can't do that in the flesh, where we can have those one-on-one conversations where we can get deeply educational and personal. And so we've tried to find those levers, if you will, within the social ecosystem to start communicating with our customer. Firstly, of course, nothing out of the ordinary, leading with transparency and saying, this is what we're up against. We're so terribly sorry. The things keep breaking. We can't give you what you want, but here, take these other things that are nuggets of truth about our brand that we hope kind of keep you somewhat satiated during this period. And when we come back, we will come back in full force. And it's a challenge because you don't want to be jeopardizing or somehow minimizing loyalty and the fact that that is at the center of a consumer experience. So it's been an interesting pivot.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine everything from, because you're thinking on both ends of it, like as a company, how you commit to continue to give your customers what you want, but at the same time, you have to listen to what's going on in the market and really try to make those on-the-fly decisions. So definitely want to dive into that in just a second. Madeline, is there one specific change that's happened since we've been having to work from home? We're in a pandemic. Marketing efforts, I'm sure, have changed across your clients. Is there one that stands out particularly?
Well, I feel like we're all working, we're constantly connected, but we've had to really step up and work, in a very agile environment because of the current situation. We work with healthcare and public health clients, utility clients that are, putting out messages that are really important right now for our communities. And so it's been amazing and really rewarding to see how quickly we've been able to adapt to working in a very virtual but very collaborative manner to, put together plans and strategies and, very quickly go to market to address, what we feel are really important communications to put out across all channels, but certainly very quickly on social. So that's been, I think, something that we're probably going to take and continue to apply to our day-to-day and how quickly we can come together as teams.
Yeah, and I feel like we're all sharing that same sentiment. You mentioned one thing, social, and I'm thinking about the role that social might have, or just listening to or seeing all these social trends that are happening, across platforms. How have some of those trends been instrumental for you at Acento in trying to reach these niche or multicultural markets specifically? And then we can take it to Giovanna and thinking about how that plays a role as well.
Yeah, social is critical, period, right? But for multicultural targets who are super users of social across all platforms, it's even more critical for us and for our campaigns. These targets are generally younger. They have larger social circles, and we have to remember that these platforms serve as a bridge to family and friends, not only in the U.S., but like from many of us, but also to outside the U.S. And it also has served as an important, it's given them a voice to a lot of these communities. To yes, of course, it's giving them access to information and entertainment, and but also to groups and communities. And I mean, we're seeing what has mushroomed out of a lot of these voices. Activism and propelled important conversations and started social movements. We're trying to understand these trends and apply the insights to help us craft those social strategies that defeat consumer fatigue and indifference. We're really trying to pivot on that, on defeating indifference. And I think it helps our partner brands matter in culture much more. Yes, it increases engagement and ultimately it changes behavior. And that's, we're in that business. We talked about the fact that we, during COVID, especially, we're helping all of our clients, but especially those in healthcare and public health sectors, they're trying to change behavior. So, making sure that we're very tuned into, those conversation, what is happening, how our targets are behaving in those conversations that are happening on social are really critical to us to pivot and to create content that really connects in a more meaningful way.
Yeah, I'm sure connection is key. I mean, just thinking about that specific market and that vertical of a client, it just has to be instrumental, and I feel like it's only going to be like a process of getting more awareness out there for customers and like what we need to do for these audiences nationwide or globally, really, for that matter. Giovanna, how have social trends kind of informed you guys, or thinking about maybe even product ideation, all of that?
Yeah, most certainly. So I think it actually is quite a healthy segue because, interestingly enough, which is almost like the antithesis to marketing in this really weird period, is that our customers want to see the transactional posts. They really are interested in seeing the product. Where can I find the product? How quickly can I get my hands on it? Which has been counterintuitive to A, naturally our inventory levels, but B, what you're seeing in a more global sense, right? Globally, we're seeing people, of course, we're still continuing to market our product and have those conversations, but what you're trying to activate is that emotional angle. And it's such a unique position to be in as a marketer where I'm like, oh my gosh, for once they want me to be able to reference my archive of assets that I have on hand. However, I can't actually use those, and because I need to be generating content that is essentially acting as a filler, if you will. And so it's a very interesting place to be in. And that's not to say that our customer isn't hungry for connection and they aren't hungry for those deeper conversations or how the honeypot can integrate from a lifestyle perspective. They just want the product. And so it's been a unique challenge. I think, the additional layer that you alluded to is product ideation. Well, also given this kind of ongoing hole or lack of product, what we've been able to actually unlock are those crowdsourced conversations in a really meaningful way. How are we underscoring that feedback loop? Like what does the customer want from us? Where we're in this place where we actually are at somewhat of a pause that we can take 10 paces backwards and redefine our product roadmap and our strategy for 2021, which has been very enlightening and empowering in so many ways. So it has allowed for us to start truly connecting those dots and building a blueprint that is hopefully going to elevate the brand and elevate the assortment as well.
Yeah, that's interesting that you point that out. A natural segue when I think of social media is I think of the power of influencers, especially in reaching specific markets, whether it's niche markets, niche audiences, or really just looking for someone to kind of speak on behalf of the brand, but from a very organic and authentic perspective. So I kind of want to throw it to Madeline and walk us through how influencers have maybe supported you guys and your efforts and for your clients in reaching these specific multicultural audiences during this time, and then moving forward as well.
Well, so maybe the question should be, why aren't more diverse creators and influencers being used today in today's multicultural America? So many of the markets that our clients operate in are already majority minority. This will soon be the case nationally. So, it's interesting. People are not just following influencers because of their race or their cultural profile. I saw a recent study that showed that roughly half of influencers in the age group of 13 to 34 are from another culture. So, it really reflects the fact that this generation's more open culturally. God, I hope. It's been really awesome to see the explosion of talent with super diverse voices and perspectives and cultural backgrounds. But we have to choose them. We have to support them. So for us, we make it a priority, and Tiffanie knows this well, to reflect, the diversity of markets we serve in all of our communications. That includes influencer campaigns. At the end of the day, we're really looking for, those connections and to use talent that can extend our campaign messages in a way that's really authentic. You talked about that, and real. In that, that diversity is part of the success equation for us, because it really reflects our target markets. And I think it makes that authenticity and that connection even more, it makes it more real, and just, I think it's just how we're going to operate moving forward, or at least how it should be more reflective of our target in our market.
Totally. Giovanna.
Yeah, so I think our approach to influencer marketing is pretty dynamic, and there's a few components of it. I mean, first and foremost, we have this hyper engaged community of consumers that we don't have to do anything, and it speaks to Madeline's point about the multicultural dynamic. The Honey Pot is a Black owned, female owned company, and because of that, we have this community that is so powerful and so willing to not only stand behind us when things are going awry, but also be the advocates for the brand. And so we've had this unique fortune of being almost wholly organic, which is crazy, and looking to them as those pillars for understanding, if we were to build out a really comprehensive influencer package, what would it look like in relation? How would that community respond to each of those people? So they become the proxies and the identifiers for that. So I think that's one element of it, is that we actually don't really, I would say we work on a very micro level and don't necessarily have intentions of scaling it much larger than that. The reason I say that is because we're talking about vaginas and feminine health. This is not a photo with a product. This is not that kind of marketing moment. This is about, I have bacterial vaginosis. I went through 7,000 experiences with doctors and conversations, and this is where I landed. Or, I have PCOS, or I have fibroids. These are conversations that take not only an influencer who has essentially initiated those conversations in the past, but someone who's able to remove themselves from pushing a product, which has become their business and truly is the bread and butter of what they do, and really is able to create a platform. And so I think we're talking about the evolution of an influencer in a really interesting way now, because now we've got activists, we have these different individuals who are rising, and are starting to understand that they don't have to lead with money. They don't have to lead with product to make money. They can lead with their narrative to actually start converting. So I think there's something special about that. Secondly, this is not out of the ordinary for the building of a brand, but we want the Honey Pot to be the influencer. And the reason I say that is because we want to be the educators. We want to be owning the conversations so that we can have that touch point with the community that we've worked so diligently on building. And so we want to be the ones who are setting that tone. And I think that that's a really interesting place for a brand to start exploring and start getting a little uncomfortable.
Yeah,
that's actually, I was just going to say, Giovanna, that's actually a really great point, because it's not always about the big numbers, but it's also about vetting the the conversations that are being had with that talent, and how authentic those are, and what they bring to the table. Again, with some of our clients, the strategy, the influencer marketing strategy, can be very touchy and very sensitive, because we're looking for authentic voices, but also that have are leading conversations in many cases. Some of them may be more sort of media news, sort of thought leaders that bring a level of realness and a voice that's not about sales. That's more about education and information and really have heart for the communities that we're talking to. And so they bring a different level of authenticity to the table, and that's okay. We're not talking about of followers. We're talking about bringing something different to the table that is just as important especially for perception change, for education campaigns. So I think there's room for that talent as well.
Both of you bring up really great points in that certainly I think when it comes to, especially, I mean, as a company, when we look to influencers, historically, we've really tried to prove out the model or sought to and had been successful in proving out the model in order to drive sales. But now we're really in a position to use them as an anchor to inform and change those behaviors that you mentioned before. And so, I mean, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask a little bit about how some of given everything that's going on, other than the pandemic, definitely including it, but thinking about the conversations and sensitivities around racial injustice and social norms happening here, at least in America, how have you guys, I guess, responded as a brand or thinking about your clients or even as an agency? What are some things you guys have done in response to some of those experiences happening right now, or at least being shed light on right now?
Well, so, I talked about the importance of social. And, having said that, we recognize that, ethnic minorities have been the most targeted and negatively impacted by bad actors on social media. So, we fully support our clients that are participating in the current boycott. They're very concerned. And, we hear it. This has significant impact, especially we talked about those that are trying to communicate really important messages right now to communities that are needing to hear information and, where to go and what to do. But it's made us really think outside the box and try to adjust. And, we're still on the hook to drive impressions and engagement and actions and sales, right, Giovanna? So, we're just getting creative, and there are other ways. So I'll say that there are other ways and other platforms, and we're trying to, present those to the clients. I think that it's a challenging time. There's no question about it. But I think it's also brought forward a much needed conversation and an audit of our industry regarding representation and diversity. And, the question for us as an agency and working with brands about the commitment in investing to reach these segments, not token or short term. We're all very familiar with that. Black History Month comes and goes, but a real and committed relationship with these consumers and with these communities. And so those are the conversations that we're having, and we're happy that we're having them. And if there's any brand out there that needs help, and we're here. We're certainly here to help. So we're trying to stay very, very close to to what's going on, but we're also very supportive of the brands that have taken a stand, because we understand, and we hope that this brings some change that's positive. So that's where we stand.
I mean, it's great to hear, and I know I'm just an advocate of what the Honey Pot has been saying out there and being very vocal about it too. So I'd love to hear your perspectives, Giovanna.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a very interesting position to be in as a white woman. Also to have this platform where I get to be sensitive and educate myself whilst going through an experience of a community that loves our brand and remains extremely passionate about the work that we're doing. So, for me, it's been manifold. First and foremost, it's definitely casting a light on what we always do, which is humans with them happen to be Black vaginas and humans. Like, beautiful. That's what we're always going to do. That's always going to be who we are. And so, so my mission is just, I'm going to uphold that. That is what we are, and that's what we'll always do. Second to that, it's, the education piece that I keep harkening back to is just ensuring that that's integrated in everything that we do. The next piece is also showing up for other female entrepreneurs who are Black and being able to expound upon their work and their successes, and also some of the drama and some of the contentious things that have happened over the last 2 months, or historically for years upon years. So we want to talk about the fact that, female funded businesses are of course underserved, but also let's talk about the fact that Black female entrepreneurs are nearly non-existent when it comes to the VC table. So my job is to be able to have those conversations that are potentially seen as elevated or irrelevant to the brand, but ultimately at the end of the day are at the heart and center of this movement and conversation. And so that's really what the Honey Pot stance is. Also, simultaneously, because we are a wellness brand, we are always going to democratize access to wellness. That is important to us. Our price points, our partners, yes, Target might be boycotting social or what have you, but I still want my customer to be able to walk into a Target and find the product that they need that can help them with their bacterial vaginosis, etc. So this is an interesting dance, Madeline, because for us, we understand the boycott, but we see it as virtue signaling versus the fact that our product should be accessible in a lot of ways to underserved communities, be it the Walmarts of the world or what have you, that again, relatively controversial. But the one angle I will say is that we are, and I mentioned this at the top of the conversation, we are bringing in yoga and meditation. We are bringing in these little subtle things that we think empower solidarity, but also help the Black community in a time of grief and in the overwhelming nature of what we're up against.
Yeah. And listen, this is a challenging time, and we're trying to balance it all and help our clients, figure out the best solutions for them. And so I totally hear you. I think that it's, it's a two-sided coin, right? And we are there. We're at the center. It's not an easy dance by any means, especially for, certainly for the clients that we serve. So, we'll stay tuned and figure out the best solutions as this moves forward. But I hear you, Giovanna. Yeah. It's not easy.
Yeah.
I hear both of you and definitely feel you, I guess, for lack of a better way to say it. I certainly can, speak to a lot of what's going on as a company or even on a personal level, but it does bring me to ask about kind of how mental health has been, happening for you guys. Are you guys doing okay working from home? How is it working with teams, whether it's within your company or outside of it? And, knowing that there's still so much going on outside of these walls, how are you guys establishing some successful ways to communicate and connect with the people you need to interact with on a regular basis?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the quarantine fatigue situation is quite real, and I know that I think Madeline referred to this at the top of the call as well. But the days just seem so muddled, and the availability, and it's like the weekends literally in the past used to come and go, and that was like a cute thing to say, and now they do. It's so hard to keep up with. So, but I think that the most effective thing for me has been actually creating those boundaries, much like you would in a former place of work, and being able to have these very distinguished times to talk about creative endeavors, or to talk about the strategy or be able to have those projections or budget calls or what have you is really being able to like create a safe forum for that. So there's not a level of over exhaustion, but you don't feel like you're constantly running at 600 miles per hour. And so I think that creating those forums and being really clear about like, hey, today I have back-to-back calls. There's no way I can sit in an ideation. Like that's probably not going to be happening. So being very clear about that. And then also, this is such a like banal and pot specific thing to say, but like we literally are telling each other we love each other on a daily basis and that like we're expressing gratitude for each other because that has somehow become this source of inspiration and unifying experience, because otherwise we're all sitting in a vacuum. And so somehow that reminder of there's another human on the other end who like loves you, respects you, and is honoring your work and your time has been a really like valuable experience and perhaps even a strange one, but super special.
Yeah, I agree. I think the days are long. They definitely start to, it all starts to blur. But yeah, I think as a company, we've done a good job in terms of, having regular happy hours and, making sure that, we have regular team, meetings and, sometimes we literally just start with how is everyone doing? Like just that little, what did you do over the weekend? We're such a social industry and that's how we would typically operate in the office. We're constantly at each other's desks and collaborating and brainstorming. So to be so isolated is definitely different and challenging. So having those moments and those, we might institute that. I love you, Giovanna. Steal that.
I love that.
It's like, especially like I live alone. So I'm like, well, it's great to hear someone else loves me.
No, for sure. So yeah, no, those little moments I think have become really precious and important.
Yeah.
So yeah, carve that hour for lunch. We're trying to be really good at taking the summer Fridays and the lunch hours and all of those things and just put it on the calendar.
Yeah. I agree with you guys. I think it's you open your eyes in bed and I'm like telling myself, do not look at my phone.
And what day is it?
Yeah.
What's today?
I'm saying happy Friday. I'm saying happy Friday in emails and everyone's like, is it Friday? Like, does that mean anything anymore? So yeah, to your point, just like connectedness is huge. And our audience actually sent through a question that I want to get to and asking about how your leadership style might have changed over the past few months and how have those relationships become more personal with your colleagues. So thinking about leadership style, has it changed? How has it changed? And how have you been able to get more personal with your colleagues? I love you, we know that.
I've always defined my leadership style as partnership because I am very candid and understanding that I've had my own growth trajectory and own experiences and that I don't have all of the answers. So let's figure this out together. And that to me is almost the realist definition of partnership. And so I think that I've been able to still engage that in a really meaningful way and kind of hop on the call and just be like, what's going on? How are you? How can I help? Also, what am I doing? How can I better this, etc. So I think that that's been fluid. I will say, and I'm sure Madeline, and you can agree with this, Tiffanie, is the creative element that you get, the creative element of that just energy in a room, or even the kind of gossiping about experiences past or what have you, just the general nature of being in someone's presence has been so deteriorated and hard to really evoke in a virtual space for me. I find myself having to pull away and be really isolated in order to actually to create more of a creative point of view, and then go back to the table and present it, which is very different from the past where you're just riffing and kind of feeling that energy. So I would say the collaborative piece has been really hard, and I think has influenced my, perhaps even negatively, my leadership style, because I'm kind of, it's become more of like assignments versus an experience, I suppose. So it's more about delegation than experience, and that's challenging for me. And so I think I'm personally trying to find out what those mechanisms are to ensure that that feels fluid and healthy, and that, you know, we're all kind of getting the best ideas in that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I talked about it. It's certainly, you know, kind of goes against the grain for us because of just how, you know, what you talked about, just how we operate. And I also, you know, I tend to be very collaborative, and I want to hear, you know, different perspectives. That's my style. So, you know, we certainly can have those conversations over calls, you know, with everyone, but I think the spontaneity and just the fluidity of some of that, you know, those brainstorms have been lost a little bit for sure. So that's been challenging to, you know, to inspire and get, you know, folks, you know, that same level of energy on a call is just, it doesn't feel the same, you know? And sometimes people don't even want to be seen because, like, oh my gosh.
I hear you.
So it's different.
It's definitely a work in progress. I'm like, there has to be an app or a Chrome plugin soon that's like, you know, reading emotions via Zoom, or I don't know, Cisco WebEx. We'll see how that works out. There's another question from the audience about still thinking about your internal structures. It's really, the question is, how can marketing and technology leaders structure their teams to recruit highly coveted talent for a new era that demands an increasing array of skill sets? So I'm sure you're thinking of people who are really skilled technically, but then also, I mean, I'll let you kind of lead with that or answer in the way that you're thinking. How have you guys thought about recruiting new talent?
Gosh, we just hired someone in the team, and you know, it definitely felt different, you know, to go through this whole process virtually and not having that you know, that chemistry. I mean, you can have that chemistry check, but certainly is, we just talked about why it's so different. You know, but it brings to light this new reality that you know, we have to focus on skill set. We have to focus on, you know, what they bring to the table. It just kind of like hyper focuses you on that, and, you know, having a real discussion around experience. So I don't know how I feel about it. You know, I think there could be a good side to this, because chemistry is important, especially, you know, face to face, but you know, it is focusing the conversation on maybe stuff that matters too.
Yeah.
I think that we're looking at it from just like really being cognizant of like the unicorns in the room, and like we have a chance to, since we're still growing and still building teams right now, marketing is a 2-woman department, and so you know, I think we're willing to not take the specialists and really open up to the generalists who have diverse backgrounds and life experiences, because I think that, you know, I'm certainly not cursing us, but I think this is, you know, this is the beginning of something that could happen in various capacities in our future. And we want people that are incredibly adaptable, and incredibly real and understand life, and are able to bring that to the honeypot and bring that to our growth. So I think we're just looking for humans with diverse experiences and who are, not specialists.
I love that.
Yeah. Same. And I do want to, I think we're getting kicked off, but I have one more question that I think could be just really helpful that for our audience to kind of hear from you. what's one thing either personally or professionally that you guys are looking forward to maybe end this on a more positive note? I know this was a heavy conversation and can only get heavier, but want to think about some of the positive things you might be looking forward to personally, maybe a vacation, dare I say it, or even professionally, maybe there's some new projects you're working on. Let us know.
Yeah, I think professionally, I'm just really excited to meet the Honey Pot consumer. So I actually started with the Honey Pot during COVID, which is crazy. Well, actually pre-COVID, but you know, what have you, in terms of my personal transition. So like, I just want to meet our customers. I want to be able to throw events. I want that like exchange. I'm really looking forward to that. Like personally, I just want to be able to be spontaneous again. Like I am so sick of having to be calculated about everything. And it's not even an anxiousness, it's just practical at this point, you know? And I'm like, dude, I just want to like get in my car and not like just drive to a friend's house and knock on their door and be like, what's up? You want to go for like, you know, like, do you want to do things? Just go. So that's it.
Yeah. I want to go away.
Yes.
Period. I would like to get away.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it.
Great answer. Great answer. I'll take it. I agree with both of you guys. You know, I had to make reservations. We won't get into it. We'll talk offline off this, but thank you guys for joining us today. This was super helpful. I know that there's so much that we can say about both of you guys as just, you know, being great leaders at your companies. So I appreciate you guys letting us in your house and then really taking the time to answer some of these questions. We super appreciate it. And obviously, thank you, Brand Innovators, for even having us.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Have a good one.
Thank you
Bye.
guys so much. Thank you, Giovanna. Thank you, Madeline. Thank you, Tiffanie. Really appreciate it. That was a great session. Bye, guys.
Take care.
All right. So we're going to bring in the next session. This is one I'm really excited about. It's a intersection of entertainment, media, and sports. And it is going to be moderated by my